Season of the Risen released alongside the Witch Queen expansion in February 2022. It featured Zavala, Crow, Empress Keitel, and Iron Lord Saladin Forge as its main characters, and saw the nascent and uneasy alliance between the Last City and Keitel's Imperial Cabal put to the test by the Witch Queen's newly revealed Lucent Brood. A short season, as was usual for expansion releases, but one I enjoyed a lot of the written lore for, in particular the book Acts of Mercy, which tells the kind of story you'd normally see in The Witcher rather than Destiny. If you're new here, what you can expect from me are lore readings put into chronological order, set to Destiny music, supplemented by in-game cutscenes, dialogue, gameplay. There are visuals, but you can treat it like an audiobook or podcast that you just play in the background. Timestamps are in the description below. I hope you enjoy. Acts of Mercy, Part 1, Violent Tributaries. Saladin awakens. Not from sleep. Nothing so gentle. From death? No. Not yet. From lost consciousness? For how long? He moves to stand. His feet drift without friction. No ground below him. Falling? No. Floating. Pine needles sway in a sea of surrounding green haze. Sun rays plunge through the canopy above and wash over him. His head is lost in the arbor rose motion. Intermittent feeling prickles the skin beneath his tarnished armor. Saladin reflexively attempts to raise his offhand to summon Isira. Numbness responds. He must be hit. He cycles breath through his lungs and sorts instinct from reason. He twists to see the wound. Nerves blaze corkscrews through his neck. Panic? No. No need. Pain? He could abide. Reality clarifies. The Iron Lord hangs from a branch run through his shoulder back to front 10 centimeters thick. What good was his damn armor? Saladin traces a thick flow of blood down his arm as it breaks into tributaries before reuniting at his fingertips. Droplets pool some 60 meters below, soon to soak into the soil and fade. Beside the pool lay a splintered rocket launcher he'd forged from a reclaimed mortar, dropped when he lost consciousness. Saladin flexes against the axe strapped to his backplate. Wood grinds against his load-bearing collarbone. He grimaces as he lifts his head to gaze at the cliff above. Smoke rises from a burnt crescent impact, blown clean into the cliff's edge. A recent scar left by an artillery shell meant for Saladin's road cruiser. Raiders, he thinks. An ambush. He connects incident to meaning. Someone looking to make an example of a lord who dared to venture beyond their territory. Radagast had warned him of risen thugs fleeing to the far wilds to escape the Iron Lord's reach. He had told Saladin of their hostility, their lawlessness. Saladin would tame it. Binocular reflection catches his sight over the smouldering cliff, looking down in his direction. Unfamiliar voices echo across the rocks. A figure calls out, and others join the rock. Between hacking coughs, Saladin counts half a dozen hostiles. His fingers ache with chill, and his lungs sting as if coated in rime. He exhales unsteadily. For a moment, Saladin imagines Lady Yorda plunging through the clouds, booming with laughter. He imagines her obliterating the cliffside with a colossal javelin of arc lightning without hesitation. These nameless men die, and she keeps laughing until Saladin joins. His near miss becomes an embarrassing story embellished around a campfire until another takes its place, and it is forgotten. Lucidity falters, and in this moment, he can almost breathe the ash, smell the stormy night air, feel the warmth of the fire of his friends, as real as worn memories rosed with age. Light condenses into Saladin's fingers. Arc lines fork across the bark as he grips the branch impaled through his shoulder. It hooks upward from his chest. Better to break it, he thinks. Fingers dig and scorch pulp. They bite in and twist. Wood pops and splinters as a bullet snaps through the pine canopy behind him. Then, another, closer this time as the sound of rifle fire echoes down the cliff face. Saladin focuses his light into the edge of his palm and slashes the splintered branch free, leaving him dangling on a stub of wood. He takes a shaky breath and swings a tingling leg back to push off the trunk behind him, bracing his boot to support his weight against the wood and lift his bone clear from the branch. His armour is slick with blood now, and he can feel a fracture in his bone. Pain he can abide. He recites it as mantra. The dive to the ground below would be dangerous. Saladin prepares to push off and jump. A round strikes his armoured torso, knocking the air from his lungs. His foot slips and kicks out violently. His weight shifts on the broken branch, catching hard on his collar and sending fissures through his fractured bone. Saladin roars over the gunfire and grips his shoulder. "Isira, get me off this branch," he snarls. His ghost materializes before him. "I taught you better than to rely on me," Isira reproves him. She swoops behind Saladin for cover. "You're not dead yet. You're capable of this." Saladin strains to regain his footing. He lifts his head and wheezes as his lungs expand. Several figures above congregate around a large object. A blur of metal he recognizes as a flak cannon. "I yield." Saladin laughs weakly. "What would you do if I weren't here, Forge? If I'd been killed?" His ghost taps the back of his head with a pellet of light. "It's just you and your light. What little you have left. Him and his light against a weapon of war." But they were just men. And he? A fiend of fire. Saladin conjures waning starfire from his bones. The last vestiges of his will burned as an offering to the light. Flame billows and radiates through his flesh, swirling between the gaps in his armour, moving to consume the branch. Sap hemorrhages in hissing bubbles from the wood around him. Flames overtake the branch, joining those building from the Iron Lord's armour. Ash wisps upward on agitated anabatic wind. With a pop, he descends into freefall. Branches snap against his legs as he picks up speed. Saladin gropes for the axe on his back with his good hand. As fingers find hilt, and solar light engulfs the weapon, he swings the axe from its strap and sinks the flaming blade into the tree, slowing his descent and carving a wake of sparking embers toward the forest floor. The pull threatens to rend him apart. He holds until he can hold no longer and plummets the final 10 meters. Wreckage striking bedrock with a wet thud. Blood vapor steams from the charred forest floor around him as he comes to. Overhead, the forest canopy explodes with a flak shell detonation. A fragmentation whistles through the air, showering the forest with ragged chunks of metal. Saladin kicks off the trunk at his feet and rolls his ravaged body onto his rocket launcher. Muscle threatens to separate as he hoists the launcher to his shoulder. Saladin howls, a wounded beast's final challenge. He presses the split launcher shut with his forearm and welds the metal with solar heat before fumbling to find the trigger. Another shell booms. Dense pine canopy opens momentarily from the blast wave. Saladin sees a clean line to the ridge, takes aim, and squeezes. He watches the rocket fly as shards of flak iron carve lines through his face. Part 2. Wake. Burning grass fills Saladin's nostrils like smelling salts. He stirs from the abyss into a new life, back pressed against a towering pine that smoulders with heat. Saladin blinks blurriness from his eyes to see the crater on the cliff where his rocket struck. Good, he thinks, picking fragments of metal from his plate. Isira sinks through the smoke just overhead and levitates in front of his face, light still coursing through her frame. Welcome back. You lost, Isira says, her voice smooth as verglass. It was a draw. Saladin stands and fumbles with a talisman hanging from his neck. He tucks the stamped iron insignia into the gorget of his armour. They're dead, aren't they? There are 1,000,000 raiders and one of you. Isira snaps. She drifts into his eyeline. A draw is a loss. We need to do better than that. We. Saladin narrows his eyes and yanks his stuck axe from the scorched trunk and slings it. Fix what you break. Isira had imparted this lesson many times. You should have opened fire on the road without hesitation. I warned you they were bait. How long are you going to rest your laurels on that prediction? Saladin groans. Isira's shell tightens like a coiling viper. Do you have a plan from here? Continue sweeping east. The broadcast code might have been Golden Age, but the signal was weak when we caught it. Can't be far, and our patrol can wait until we clear this up. Fine observation. I agree, the ghost says curtly, floating off ahead. Saladin looks to the burning pine and uncuffs his gauntlet. Strands of ruddy leather stick beneath his nails as he removes the glove and presses his hand to bark. This tree had likely stood for centuries, roots deep in the soil, branches carving territory into the greater forest. So it was for many other trees. They all had their space, a crown shyness shared by old things. One born in this forest might assume this tree had always been. He feels the warmth radiating from the roasting heartwood above. Light still crackles in the ember-split wood. His light. Left alone, it would destroy this old pine, consume it from the inside out. Saladin anchors the light to his core and commands it to return, dousing the burn. The tree will heal, and today's wound will fade. This gouge marks a point of struggle surpassed, and, given enough time, will fade into familiarity. Someone is coming, Isira reports in a quiet voice. Are they armed? Saladin whispers, hand slowly drifting to the haft of his slung axe. Before Isira can answer, a thin man in coarse linen fumbles into view. Terror paints his face as his eyes fall on Saladin. I have no weapon, the man says with a thick local accent. He eyes Saladin's equipment. You? Iron Lord? Awe washes over the man's face. Isira zips between him and Saladin. Did you not hear the explosions? What do they teach you people out here? Many stray dogs fight here. The man's gaze drops to the ground. Sometimes scraps are left after. Weapons like a buzzard, Saladin accuses. No, the man throws his hands in the air. Others steal from village. We find weapons to fight back. I see. Saladin nods. Do you or your people have a radio? Isira asks. The man let out a curt laugh before realizing the ghost is serious. No? Then this is a waste of our time, Isira whispers to Saladin. The man steps forward. Please, wait. Find mercy in your heart. He braces a hand on his thigh and takes a slow knee. Iron Lords protect people. You kill monsters. His eyes dart between man and ghost. You want payment? Saladin sighs. We're not mercenaries. Food, then. Better than what can be foraged here, he says, offering a blackened crust of bread from a twine rucksack. Cleaned armor and clothes? Blankets, clean water, and good company by a warm fire? The man nods eagerly. Saladin turns the meagre portion of stale bread in his hand. Between winter and latent radiation, reliable food is scarce here, making thievery into a grave offence. He knows the man is lying about their resources, but only out of desperation, the kind that sends you running toward explosions. What is your name? Khepri. I'm Khepri. You said you were being stolen from, Khepri. More than can be replaced. Last thieves came, the village lost Elmi, Khepri says, holding back tears. We will starve if thieves are not stopped. Show me. The man leads them down a lightly trafficked footpath marked by hand-driven stakes bearing illegibly worn highway signs. Southeast until the trees thin and the smell of muddled livestock and wheat overtakes the pine. Isira and Saladin hang several steps behind Khepri on approach to a small and lightly fenced swine enclosure with a pathway bisecting it. Saladin notes the fence itself serves more to stop the three pigs from wandering off than to keep anything out. He quickly surveys a handful of rusty, corrugated metal dwellings that wind out from the swine run and encircle a better-maintained storage structure and longhouse. Beside the longhouse lies a humble stable for a goat that chews at Saladin's sleeves when he passes by. The handful of families living here stand and stare as Saladin sloshes through the muddy entrance, Isira floating close behind. Khepri heralds the duo as saviours. The words feel coarse in Saladin's ears, but he graciously shakes the people's hands and takes their stories as evidence towards finding their thieves. There's a prideful nature to their expressions, and the meagre gifts they offer. The kind that comes from starting with nothing and arriving at something. Saladin couldn't help but smile at their perseverance. They took Elmi from Pen, Khepri says. Scared our goat. My son and I chased them, but they made off with her. With half the dried meat stores. He wrings his hands. Elmi is a pig, Saladin says flatly. Khepri nods, teary-eyed. Only girl hog. Without her we starve. Isira flitters close to Saladin as she emits a wide, sweeping scan from her shell. Forge. I doubt they're aware, but that Golden Age transmission is receiving a signal from the Longhouse. Part 3. Plea Deal. Saladin breaks through the tree line on the back slope of a collapsed bluff. Behind him lies the breadth of the old forest, shadow slinking away before the dawn. He and Isara had trekked 2 kilometers from Kepre's village to close in on the location of a Golden Age receiver. Atop the bluff, Saladin turns his attention to a steep, sunken basin in front of him, fallen in on itself under the pressure of one of Earth's many invasions. A rusted antenna from a bygone era still penetrates through the rubble in the middle of overgrowth, debris, and ruined transmission dishes. Faded block lettering runs down the length of the antenna, which read, Point Perelian. Centered below the antenna, Saladin could make out a tarnished hatch. The signal in the longhouse was a recording device. Isara explains. Its transmission was received here, so the thief planted a recon device unbeknownst to the villagers. Saladin concludes. Clever way to find openings. Isara says. I'm also detecting electric current. There must be a power cell underneath all that rubble. Felwinter Peak could make use of it. She notes. Raiders seem unlikely. No violence in the village, no territorial claims. And they stole a pig, of all things, Saladin says. Sounds more like a starving animal. Isara hums in consideration. Wild animals get put down when they start killing livestock. Saladin chuckles. And feral wolves become loyal hounds when shown mercy. Isn't that right, Isara? Sometimes. Eventually. Isara sighs. You want to protect the people here? Empower the lords with whatever tech is running down there. Impose order before a warlord seizes control. Don't chase strays, hoping to tame them. As luck would have it, we can do both. Saladin's mouth curls into a rare smirk. Luck isn't something we should depend on, Forge. Once at the antenna base, Saladin notes traces of rubbed-away rust on the hatch's hinges. He surveys the many gaps and recesses scattered through the field of debris round him, waiting an ambush from one of them. When none appear, Saladin scoffs, as if offended, and spins the hatch wheel until it thuds loudly and drops open. Saladin recoils as putrid odour floods his nose. He takes the axe from his back and sets it aflame. Flickering illumination scatters shadows throughout the dark hatchway. The room is of moderate size, mostly buried beneath encroaching nature. It appears to be the remnants of a control tower erected to bridge a communicational divide. Several preserved slogans in long-dead languages line the interior walls, their meanings lost on him. Anyone? He asks. Carbon levels suggest a handful of recent inhabitants, some decomposition, but electrical interference is scrambling my readings. Old-fashioned way then, Saladin says, slipping into the opening. His feet slam to the floor under the weight of his armour, followed by Isara. Sudden movement catches his eye. He prepares to swing as a silhouette dashes towards him and squeals. He snatches the pig mid-dash. It thrashes in his grasp. Helmi, Saladin grumbles. Holding the squirming hog, he sweeps the lit axe over the room, stopping to examine a shadowed corner full of stacked garbage. Isara homes in on the same spot and ignites her flashlight to reveal a face, a filthy shoulder, and a gun barrel half buried and hidden among the refuse. Good pig. The young girl has him at gunpoint, flat-footed. Saladin's brow furrows as he eyes his opponent. No older than 14, a wilder child girl wrapped in furs and smears of dirt. I will put a hole in you. Her unsteady voice grapples with seldom spoken syllables. No lie. The scrawny girl's dim eyes and matted hair are silvered with persistent trauma. Saladin steps forward, his massive frame overshadowing the wilder child girl. You're not going to kill me, girl. I'll take your demon when you're dead. The girl hesitates for a moment before yelling, I know it gives magic. Then Jackson will be afraid too. Experience had clearly deafened her to empathy. Morality was a luxury for a civilized age she'd never known. Isara bursts out laughing behind Saladin. Try. The girl swings the rifle to Isara and fires. Saladin drops Elmi, 2 clattering squeals, and stops the bullet in the air with his hand before it contacts his ghost. He picks the round from the interior backplate of his gauntlet, blood running fresh from the hole in his palm. Whoever you stole these from is underpacking their grains. She hisses at him and hastily tries to slip another dirty round into the chamber. Saladin rushes the girl. He slaps the rifle from her hands and lifts her aloft by her scruff. She stares directly into his eyes, accepting the death blow to come. Now that you're listening, Saladin places her feet to floor. Sit down, child. Her expression is a caked mask of survival fugue, a hare's heart from expiration. He had felt that waking confusion before, risen into nothing, with nothing. Saladin knows the penalty for theft is death, but that action was final. He also knows the strength of potential, of justice beyond the letter, of mercy. She needs something of sense to hold against the barrage of madness the world had become. Your name. Just kill me. I'm not a warlord, girl. Saladin, a banneret, plants his molten axe firmly in the ground, blood from his hand sizzling down the haft. I won't show you death. I'll show you a way to live. Still, her eyes do not leave the burning axe for some time. She refuses rations, as no one had ever given her something without the intent to extract far more in return. Last time. Name. Farah. If you were hungry, I'm sure that village would have taken you in. Winter's soon. And stealing. What if you'd driven that village to starvation? The girl stares through him vacantly. Jackson said bring gifts. Promised to give my brother back. Isara patches Saladin's hand with light. And did he? She asks. Farah's vapid expression falters. Saladin eyes the refuse pile behind her under Isara's light. A wrapped child's body is buried within the mound. He places a gentle hand on the girl's shoulder. Take me to Jackson. The hike to the Warlord's commune is several days north. Over the journey, Saladin teaches the girl to trap rabbits and hunt game. Where she sees a predator inflicting their will, Saladin explains the mercy of delivering a quick death. He tells her the wolf does not hunt for themselves, but for the pack. Alone, they are mongrels, driven by instinct and hunger. That violence spreads. It is the promise of the pack that keeps them true. It is the order that binds us together. They make camp on the outskirts of Jackson's hold. Saladin rolls stringy meat between his glowing palms, and the smell of cooking hair fills his nostrils. It is a catch from Farah's first sturdy trap, a bounty they share in peace. You see, together we can provide for each other. Saladin hands Farah a cooked leg. This is how we go from simply surviving to living. Community, order, laws. That is how we move forward. What are laws? Farah asks, mouth full of rabbit. They're rules. Promises of how to treat each other. Promises break. she says, swallowing. People like me make sure they're kept. People like you could too. Saladin sees her confusion and continues. Sometimes, when a lord can't remain to protect an area, we appoint a vassal in our stead. Farah looks at him quizzically. Someone to watch over the woods while I'm gone. Someone like you who understands why promises should be kept. Saladin unclasps a chain from his neck. This makes you one of our pack, Farah. A wolf, and we protect our own. How? She asks, grasping the talisman tightly as Saladin hangs it around her fragile neck. Like you, there will be others who need a place. Find them. Bring them back to the village you stole from. Promise to protect each other. That is how. In the morning, Farah takes Saladin to the edge of Jackson's encampment, where the woods give way to craggy rock and dry dirt. The Iron Lord tells her to await his return at their campsite. He strides into Jackson's camp as alarm yells raise defenders. Farah steps back into the tree line, but she does not leave. Farah watches the Iron Lord tear through body after body with brutal efficiency. A savage, blood-drunk beast. The young girl devours every violent image of its axe, spilling sizzling crimson. She delights in the beast's hollow reception to their screams for mercy. Her wide eyes fill with lightning, flame, and gore. It is a painting of cathartic balance. Though she does not know the words, it is a vengeful righteousness that takes hold in her. The beast is Jackson's punishment for his misdeeds. Promised order, imposed through dominance. Farah rubs her talisman when the warlord Jackson emerges, amethyst light surrounding him. A moment of fear creeps into her heart as Jackson bellows laughter and charges. But he too falls under an obliterating column of lightning called down by the beast's thunderous roar. All that remains is the crackle of his cindered bones flaking into ash. She smiles. Saladin stands at the edge of Jackson's burning encampment. He looks to the lightning-scorched earth where Jackson had stood and summons Isara. Isara surveys the aftermath. Good. But you're going to let the girl go? Stealing food and attacking an Iron Lord are death offences, and you want to do nothing? Isara's doubt is palpable. Saladin knows she's seen how wild things age. You're procrastinating, she fumes. Farah's young enough to find a different future. Saladin meets Isara's gaze, just like I did. Isara whirs with exasperation. The world is full of wayward orphans, Forge. Your job is to enforce iron laws, not interpret grey areas. I am an Iron Lord, and our laws are mine to interpret as I see fit. Saladin snaps. We'll salvage the battery and bring her back to Kepri with the pig. Then we're leaving. His voice is stern and unyielding. That's the end of it. Part 4. Few words between them. Winter wind sweeps over the forest of pine. Fresh snowfall smattering tops the canopy. Isara mentions the pines are much taller than when Saladin had last seen them, but he cannot imagine their aging. He only sees what is there now. If he could have stood beneath their needles and watched their 50 years of growth, would he notice the difference? The spot where he had burned the warlord's hold is covered now in new growth and snow. He draws a mental line from it to the bluff where he'd met Farah all those years ago, then to Kepre's village. Blurry smoke ascends through woods and snow flurry. A cooking fire, maybe. Bacon, he hoped. Saladin leans over the ridge where he had fallen before and steps over the edge. Under thin slush, Saladin and Isara find the once well-trodden path toward Kepre's village. No one meets them on the road, though Isara catches several signs of sudden movement on her scanners. Animals, Saladin suggests. Looking through the breaks in the branches, he notices a thickening black smoke against the snowfall. A ghostly mist winds through the thinning pines as the duo reach Kepre's village. Smells of singed hair and burnt pork invade the winter air. Iron Lord and Ghost exchange looks before she decompiles. Saladin rushes into the clearing, Fool's Remedy in hand, and snow crunching under his heavy boots. He follows glistening bloodlines soaked into the soot and snow, through empty pens devoid of hay, past hollow wooden skeletons of rotted homes, until they meet at the rusted frame of a desiccated longhouse. Through snow-blind and moth-ridden tatters, he sees them. Graves. Lines of them, then piles of stone. Bare mounds of shallow-churned earth follow. Smoke rises behind them over a dugout depression. Saladin fixates on the number of them. The groupings. He counts them as he walks, until he reaches the edge of the smoking pit, and the numbers lose all meaning. A huddled, smoking mass of carnage lay tangled in the pit before him. Cauterized panic, still smouldering in the frigid air. Saladin stares into the sunken sockets of a charred face. He imagines Kepre's face staring back at him. Was it him? Features all burned away. Years older. Saladin turns to see Isara studying something in the longhouse. Through flames rising in his eyes, he sees a crude reproduction of an iron sigil nestled in a wolf's blackened skull. The Golden Age antenna no longer received signals. It was bent, unable to discern anything for itself, but still able to throw noise into the sky. A new settlement had formed around it, fenced with wooden spears and built along the basin in a spiral shape. Saladin makes his way inside the oddly vacant encampment, unharried, and descends. Where once a hatch had led him down into a centre of communication, now a hollow building lay carved open. A path of set stones had been pressed into the ground over years of foot traffic. Crimson moss takes root in the mud that fills in the gaps. It flows underground to an open hall, like an estuary. He tells Isara to stay outside, to watch his back. Silvered eyes pierce through the dim hall fashioned from the surrounding comm station. Saladin watches the moonlight gleaming off them like two dancing spirits. He sees himself in that fearless stare. I didn't imagine I'd see you here again, young one. It's been a long time since anyone called me young. Farah. Packmaster sits upon a scrap heap of a throne at the rear of the hall, 8 rugged gunners flanking her. She's a woman now, several decades of age and violence etched into her sun-scarred skin and wizened face. Her finger taps a half-missing ear, long-heeled. You came from far away. What for? Rumours of rabid wolves prowling the outlands. Saladin looks to the men flanking Farah. Are these yours? Farah leers at the crest on Saladin's armour. My pack. Most are hunting now. I removed the warlord, and you took his place. Saladin's voice is thick with rage. Same as it ever was. Farah muses. Someone had to keep order in your absence. Saladin scans the room with disgust. This is not what I taught you. Farah smiles and looks to her comrades. Isn't it? They're orphans of the forest like me. You lost yourself. Saladin barks as he steps forward, his finger slipping inside the trigger guard of his holstered weapon. Farah cackles breathily. Because I followed you. I asked for forgiveness for stealing, and they took my ear. So next time I met them, I took back. It continued until they lost everything. She gestures behind her to her grinning disciples and stashes of stolen goods. The pack decides what is best. Iron Lords don't slaughter innocent villages. We don't starve people. I don't murder children. Saladin growls, heat building under his skin. What do you do when a warlord refuses to bow? Order is imposed, old Grey Lord. Or have you forgotten your lessons? She shifts in her seat. I learned that when you slapped the rifle out of my hand, when you levelled Jackson's camp. I understood. I made a mistake, thinking what you needed was mercy. Saladin exhales. The Iron Lord swiftly unholsters Fool's Remedy. A quick burst drops Farah's rightmost wolf, leaving the pack stunned. Saladin steps forward and kicks Farah's throne, sending her and the chair skipping across the ground like a pond stone, until it crashes and pins her to the far wall. Farah's leftmost wolf draws a wicked machete and lunges. Saladin whips the axe from his back with his offhand and cleaves the bandit clean pelvis to crown. The two halves slump limply to the floor. Horror freezes the pack as blood pools around them. Farah's shrill voice screams, "Put him down!" Bullets cross in the air as muzzle flashes erupt in every direction. Saladin pivots to face the bulk of the pack, rattling off rounds as freely as his armour and body are receiving them. He kills too. There is no cover. There is no retreat. This is a reckoning. Wolves whine and die around him. A shotgun blast catches his shoulder, drawing blood and disarming his pistol. He staggers back under the debt of his wounds. Red drips from beneath his epaulet, but pain is the furthest thing from his mind. He ignites the arm in fiery light and casts a solar hammer that caves in the shotgunner's skull with a sizzling pop. The second to last wolf drops an empty weapon and tries to run. Saladin heaves his axe across the hall and catches the coward in the back. They collapse under the heft of the molten blade and combust. He turns to the last wolf, frantically trying to reload their weapon. They back into a corner as they rack their rifle and spray rounds. Saladin charges through the gunfire and slams them against the wall. He unleashes a barrage of arc-wreathed fists that pulverize his foe into convulsing pulp. Saladin sees Farah, still pinned and struggling beneath the throne, burning wreckage around her. He grimaces as he flips the throne off her, wraps hands around her neck and lifts her aloft. His fingers crush the air from her throat until they feel spine. His body aches. He pauses to catch his breath, to see remorse in her eyes. Farah places a gentle hand on his fingers. How long until one comes to repay your violence? She wheezes. Their eyes meet. Saladin's grip loosens. With her other hand, Farah plunges a narrow blade into Saladin's neckline. He winces and turns to see the thin sliver of metal in her hand. Saladin meets her eyes again. There is no fear. His grip tightens until bone shatters. He releases and lets her body crumple where it lands. He watches the life slip from her eyes, replaced by pain, trembling near death. Saladin picks up his sidearm and delivers her one final mercy. Isara floats near the settlement's fence, a small shadow against early morning sun piercing through snow flurries. Saladin climbs the distance to her before she heals his wounds. The journey is a purifying penance, he tells himself. Pain he can abide. In the opening mission of the Witch Queen campaign, the Guardian and Keitel's Cabal come into conflict on Mars, as they both race to respond to the reveal of the Witch Queen's lure, the Guardians to investigate, and the Cabal to attack. As the early events of the campaign play out, Savathun's Lucent Brood are set loose in Sol to lay the groundwork for yet another of the Witch Queen's schemes. Sovereign Order. 3 ships flew overhead in tight formation. Their shadows flickered across Grutux's iris as she calculated their probable landing zones. Satisfied, she rose from the tangle of blackberries where she had been hiding, the thorn scraping harmlessly against her ivory shell. Zavol sat quietly, one dark claw scratching idly at the dirt. He had drawn the old runes, once powerful symbols of tithing, now nothing more than shallow scrawls. Grutuk nudged him. Time to get to work, she said. Zavol rose slowly, then kicked away the drawings with his foot. He hissed and clacked his jaws. You always say that, she sighed, and the two headed toward the trees to wait for the Guardians. Tusked Allegiance grieves. Bask materialized near a low wall and zipped to where Yola had collapsed. The ghost began to focus his light when incoming fire sent him spinning to the ground. What did I tell you about dying in the open? The little ghost cried in frustration. Determined, he rose into the air, but the Hive Knight was already charging across the Trostland cobblestones. A sudden explosion of void energy took the knight by surprise, but it dodged the pulsing shockwaves of a vortex grenade. A tall warlock in a worn green robe loped from the tree line and slid to a stop before Bask. She hastily formed a ball of light in her palm and slammed it into the ground. Delicate wisps of energy began to rise from the soil. That's not gonna help, Bask whirred angrily. The warlock stood, sheltering Bask with her body as he resumed his focus on Yola. The knight screeched and resumed fire. A volley of shredder bolts doubled the warlock over, but the energy seeping from the rift gave her the strength to keep standing. Thanks, said Bask sheepishly. Don't mention it, she said, gritting her teeth through the gunfire. A blinding burst of energy surged as Yola rose to his feet, body shimmering with light. He braced himself and lobbed an orb of unstable energy that reduced the night to howling ash on impact. "I appreciate the assist," Yola said to Bask and the Warlock as he brushed dirt from his decrepit boots. "These guys are stronger than I thought, but it's nothing that I know the bomb can't handle." The Warlock inspected the damage to her robe. "What's going on with these hive?" "I don't know," Yola said. "Lord Saladin sent a group of us down to figure out." Another blinding burst of energy surged nearby. The knight rose to its feet, body shimmering with light. The Guardian stood frozen in horror. "When can they do that?" Bask squeaked. And the fight began in earnest.
"You opened fire on us."
My warriors were responding to unexpected threats.
Surprised you had any troops left to report the incident.
Not sure I'd go in there if I were you.
The rules of engagement had changed.
I don't need to listen to this.
Guardian, what fortuitous timing.
Indeed. I'm fresh from performing Cabal funeral rites. Care to explain?
Our condolences, Empress. Your people fought and died with honor, but they didn't have to.
We can all prevent future losses if we choose to put the incident on Mars behind us and work together. What we discovered there is a threat to both humanity and the Cabal.
You want my help?
Want is a strong word.
You need my help.
I don't know how the Hive came into possession of the light. My core will find out. But in the meantime...
Invincibility lies in the defense. The possibility of victory in the attack.
Sun Tzu.
I've read your texts. You want us to hit them.
I need us to hit them. Hard.
Quintessence 1. Pith. Keitel's feet stubbornly refused to touch the floor. She, at least the loose approximation of her body, floated inelegantly in the Scion's mindscape. She reached out for purchase as a bit of geometry drifted by, but her hands were as intangible as smoke. She growled. "Can you increase the clarity?" She spoke aloud. An indignant chirp filled her mind, a flutter of yellow, the tensile sensation of bending green wood. "Then try harder," she said, not without affection. The floor of the mindscape buckled and then rose to meet her. There was no sensation as she stood upright. She took a step. The space swirled around her. Dense, gaseous, like walking inside a headache. She peered into the grey, unimpressed. Her tour of the arena where the Guardians and Lucent Hive would fight was proving disappointing. "Is this all there is?" The Scion sent her a telepathic explanation. Hosting lightless beings in a Scion's mindscape was like holding up a hazy mirror, reflecting what was held inside. It would be different, more tangible for the Lucent Hive, for the Guardians. "For those with the light," she sighed, and as she did, a yellow glow lit the mist around her. She turned. Far above her manifested the immense visage of Dominus Gaul. Dirty, white storm clouds swirled to form the peaks of his armour. He burned with light from within, triumphant even in defeat. She shook her head. A guardian with the Synaptic Spear would be able to destroy this aspect, but she was lightless and could never share the mindscape with another. She looked up at Gaul's beatific face with rising anger, ashamed that her image of him was so magnificent. The Scion sent her a sharp warning in response. Regret, guilt, danger. She understood. You face what you bring with you. Gaul's image parted, revealing Torabottle shining proudly in the night sky. Keitel tried desperately to change her focus. She willed into being Ignovan and his ridiculous tusked helmet, Commander Zavala and his cohorts, the holders of the Blood Treaty. But they were faint and small against the open sky. She searched herself for strength, but Amun Arath's form rose unbidden before her, blood pouring from her wounds, howling in victory. Keitel drew back. Torabottle withered in the sky, its greens and blues fouling to reds and blacks. Keitel choked on the stench of corpses piled on fields of ash, seas clotted with rot. Dark smoke poured from her dead world and framed the screaming face of Xivu Arath. And something loomed from behind it. Something she knew. Xivu Arath towered in the sky, but now her father's corpulence spread to contain all she could see. His finery was tarnished, his purple silks dripped with rank saliva, his gold armour caked with pus. His form swelled grotesquely as it surged toward her. His wet mouth opened, lips slick with sweet fat. His bulging eyes stared wildly at nothing. She saw the floor of the mindscape rise and transform into a barrier. The Scion was attempting to block Callus out. "No," she commanded, her voice tight. The barrier dissipated. She walked closer, moving to meet Callus's figure. The floor reformed tentatively beneath her feet. Callus bellowed, and for a moment, she was a flea on her father's enormous body. She moved through his cloudy form, within his flesh, the air thick with the rancid stink of wine and blood and vomit. She fought her way inward, through the billowing foulness of him, pushing deeper against the gagging smother of his heat. Her form began to lose definition. It threatened to be absorbed by the fetid system around her, and still she fought, and still she fought, until she reached the centre, where a form stood at peace in brilliant clarity. Her tusks studded with gems, her armour glorious, her eyes clear, her muscles strong.
"There you are,"
Keitel whispered, and smiled at herself. Synaptic Spear. Commander, I regret to disclose that the Cryptarchy's following report on the so-called Synaptic Spear is woefully ill-prepared, even coming as it does from the few fledgling Cryptarchs who are not busy studying Savathun's throne world. I myself am overseeing the construction of the Sisorium, where a psionically gifted individual could theoretically scan through the networked memories of preserved minds. But I digress. Based as it is on the light-suppressing technology that Dominus Gaul used to restrain the Traveller during the Red War, The Synaptic Spear is capable of interrupting or dispelling a single instance of light, if, and only if, it is wielded by a light bearer. However, this repellent effect is too weak to be of any use in the physical plane. The spear is only capable of disrupting light in an environment charged with psionic energies. Even then, it cannot be used against a subject unless they are also a light bearer. Perish the thought. Who believes themselves in such a perilous situation that they manifest an aspect of their light in the psionic environment. That aspect could then, it is theorized, be slain by the spear, leaving the subject lightless in the physical plane. In short, Commander, any use of the Synaptic Spear relies on a truly improbable chain of hypotheticals. With such an inconceivably narrow usage, it is difficult to imagine how this spear will be of any use to us in the battles ahead. Master Rahul. Ivory Empress. Amanda raised her eyebrows as Crow cruised onto the landing pad. He sat atop a gleaming new sparrow, adorned with gold and ivory. "Fancy ride, huh?" he asked. "Yeah, fit for a prince," Amanda replied dourly. Crow ignored the dig with a wan smile. "It's not mine, just borrowing it while I'm on Earth." Amanda gave a small harumph. "Borrowing it from the Cabal?" Crow rapped one of the curling ivory horns with his knuckle. "How could you tell?" "Guess that means you've got some new friends now," she snapped, sharper than intended. Crow scuffed the ground with his toe. "Not really. I don't have a lot of close friends. There's Glint, of course, but he's more like an appendage." "Well, you used to have plenty of friends," she said, "but that was a lifetime ago." Crow opened his mouth to retort, but stopped short. The silence stretched on. "Don't let me find that thing on my landing pad when I get back," Amanda finally said, crossing her arms. "This ain't a parking lot." Crow nodded and slowly scooted past, keeping his eyes forward. As Amanda watched him go, she heard a small digital voice chirp. "Did you call me an appendage?" The shipwright smiled, and then immediately caught herself. Her smile curdled into sour frown. She clenched her fists in frustration. "Why do you do this to yourself, Holiday?" she muttered as she stormed back to the hangar. "Every time. Every damn time." Sweet sorrow. Amanda Holiday hurls a wrench at the wall, her grunt of effort punctuated by the sharp clang of metal striking metal. Her shoulders rise and fall with each laboured breath in the silence that follows. She gasps softly and rushes forward, eyes scanning the surface of the wrench for cracks as her fingers frantically reach for the socket. She turns the ratchet, hoping to hear the reassuring click of the gears. But there is nothing. No movement inside from either direction. "Damn it," Amanda hisses, rubbing the heel of her palm against her eye. "Damn it." She sees a racing helmet at her feet and kicks it across the garage floor. Everything around her is a painful reminder of her ignorance. A blue and white auto rifle of Cabal design with an inscribed message on the barrel. Her favourite ramen bar and sightseeing locations circled on a map of the last city. A datapad loaded with coordinates for the old Harken Precipice racetrack. The nearly finished sparrow she and Nick had been working on, blazoned with airbrushed feathers of ebony and white. "Damn it," Amanda whispers, Her back brushes against the wall, and she leans into it as her body slowly crumples to the floor. Her head dips to the side and rests on the cold engine of the Sparrow beside her. She pulls her legs towards her chest and curses into her knees, burying her face in them as her shoulders begin to rise and fall in trembling bursts. Of all the friends she could have made, of all the people who could have become important in her life, of all the horrible twists of fate she could have endured, why did they all have to be him?
I meet you in blood, Guardian. There was violence between your people and mine. This will be forgiven. Once. Our alliance must be strong to stand against Savathun's hive. I see Commander Ikora has delivered the Synaptic Spear. Light-suppressing Cabal technology. Refined and weaponized. Locate a hive lieutenant. One brimming with Savathun's influence. My scions will force it into their mindscape and connect your light to the light of the weakened hive. It will struggle against you. You will face embodiments of its belief in Savathun. Take up your spear and destroy them, and it will be left lightless. Without the light or a worm, the hive will die. Unless my scions keep it alive, we will bring it to your helm and sift through its broken mind to discover its secrets, all under the watchful eye of your Lord Saladin. I have led many warriors into battle, but this psychic warfare, I will enjoy the experience. Fight well, Guardian. Bring glory to both our clans, and break these hive against the bow of our union.
Young wolf, we have need of your fangs. The Vanguard is split. While Ikora deals with Savathun in the Throne World, we're facing more direct threats here on Earth. Lucent Hive have broken into the EDZ. Our guardians on the ground were caught unprepared. The reinforcements we sent were lost. We are facing a new enemy. Hive with the light. I will not allow it, so I'm sending you. I'm told you can use that spear to sever the Hive's connection to Savathun, essentially killing it. But before it can die, we capture it, bring it here, for psychic analysis. Keidel's scions are the key to this operation. If you see them on the battlefield, resist the urge to open fire. We need them to learn what happened to our guardians, and how to stop it from ever happening again. The Hive are at our doorstep. They think their corrupted light gives them the strength to stand against us. Now go to the EDZ and show them how wrong they are. Multiple fire teams have disappeared. We don't know if it was a coordinated offensive, or just bad luck.
If Savathun was behind it, she must have plans for them. We need more intel.
Empress Keidel's scions will help the Guardian secure a Hive lieutenant and return them to the tower for psychic analysis.
As if we haven't had enough Hive in the tower lately.
We found your missing warriors, drained of their light.
And the hunting party responsible.
They'd hoped to ambush a less formidable fire team.
But they got us instead. Find their leader and make them pay, Guardian.
This is a neutral space, right? Like a temporary pocket dimension.
It contains the minds of the Guardian and the Hive we subdued, and the influence of the Witch Queen.
Those projections of Savathun aren't real, but they do real damage.
Lucky for us, so does the Synaptic Spear. Drive it through the Witch Queen's illusions.
Excellent work. We'll have that abomination shipped back to the helm for examination.
Cabal victory cheers come from the chest, Commander. Full-throated and glorious.
Does this look like a victory to you?
Each success, no matter how incremental, is a step on the path to victory, Commander. Own them.
So many dead Guardians, stripped of their light. How do we come back from this?
Sometimes you don't. When the Iron Lords were betrayed by Rasputin and slaughtered by Siva, we never recouped our losses. But the world moved on. Sometimes, in order for the new growth to blossom, the old must wither away and die.
Is that what these hive are? The new growth? Or are you talking about something else?
Find the answer yourself. You fought well in the Mindscape, Guardian. Keitel's most trusted scion is searching this Hive Lieutenant's mind as we speak. Each hive holds a piece of the puzzle. The more we capture, the more intel we gain. If we discover their plans, we can bring their entire operation down upon them. They thought it would be easy. Take the light and watch us crumble. Now the Lucent Hive are coming face to face with Guardians, true warriors of the light. And they're afraid. We'll find what secrets they're hiding, and when they gather for their next ritual, you'll be there, with the full strength of the light behind you.
For now, we have to trust that we share a common enemy with the Empress.
Every instinct I have is telling me to strike. Centuries of conditioning. But instincts can lie.
If I had told you just a handful of years ago that we'd have a Guardian who was once Uldren Sov here in the tower, a catch docked in the city, and the beginnings of an alliance with the Cabal,
I'd have locked you up.
You and Ikora both.
On that note, Crow. He's undisciplined, no respect for the chain of command, and now, with Uldren's memories, do you honestly think that behavior will improve?
You're not wrong. But he stepped up time and again when lives are on the line, including mine.
Oh, we can't afford mistakes now. Won't survive them.
I know. I also know you're willing to take chances on someone who's a risk.
He's dangerously overconfident.
So was I.
You were different. Times were different.
They were. But I changed thanks to you. And together we changed the times. What was that saying of yours? Every blade needs a whetstone.
Zavala.
Crow needs guidance. And I can't think of a better guide. Give him the same chance you gave me, Saladin. Once upon a time.
Coalition Shell. Transcript transposed via Ghostlink Scrivener. Uplink terminated 1629. File archived. Redacted. Empress, welcome. Ikora Ray joins me here. Empress Keitel, my hidden found your missing frigate. Did they? It was abandoned on the dark side of the moon. The scions who stole it were spotted consorting with loyalists to Callus, and may still have further plans to do so. Defectors. I decreed their freedom. They use it to drive a blade into my back, rather than meet me face to face. Any idea why they'd claim allegiance to your father? I'm concerned Callus is making a play we're missing. Many scions held significant social standing under my father, due to their military or intelligence capabilities. Now that all scions are free, some of the old guard feel their status is degraded by comparison. It is a short-sighted perspective, one that leads to dangerous choices. Short-sighted. but persuasive. In my time with Saladin's Iron Lords, we met a good deal of warlords unwilling to join us if it meant stripping themselves of authority. There are always those who value themselves over anything else. Agreed. We saw something similar from the future war cult and their supporters when the House of Light joined the city. It was disturbing how quickly that kind of mentality can take hold. In any event, we should continue monitoring the situation. I don't want to be caught unaware.
The Cabal will withstand losing a handful of cowards. If I learn more about these defectors' motives, I will send word. I expect you will do the same.
Indeed.
Good fortune in the battles to come, Commander. Vanguard Ray.
Transmission terminated.
Guardian. My scions have intercepted a series of psychic broadcasts. They're coming from a decommissioned Cabal bunker on Mars. The messages are perceptible only to those with psionic abilities. They paint my rule and our coalition as treachery. They openly encourage mutiny and coax the defectors toward the Black Fleet. Commander Zavala and I agree that these recruitment efforts must be stopped. But I should not be seen using my forces to suppress Scion communications. So you will be the executor of my fury. Go to Mars and eradicate this cowardly rebellion.
Guardian, Empress Keitel's forces are being targeted by psionic propaganda. This could indicate an alliance between the Black Fleet and a group of Scion rebels.
I cannot be seen deploying my forces here. Instead, I must rely on my new Vanguard allies.
This operation is in both our best interests. Find out who's behind those transmissions. Shut them down.
I have a pleasant surprise for you. Something that I'm sure will make an impact. But first, the airspace must be cleared.
You heard the Empress. Steal one of those interceptors and take out those flak cannons.
Orbital bombardment incoming. Make haste.
Whoever's behind this operation is willing to sacrifice their base to destroy the evidence.
In my legions, those inside would do it themselves.
Heads up, Guardian. I got a 10-ton present for you. I hope you're ready to eat, because this baby's hungry for action.
I admit, watching the Guardian crush these defectors, it stirs something in me.
Fighting against your own people can't be easy.
They are not my people.
Cabal reinforcements are rallying on you. I'll soften them up and you knock them down.
We cannot destroy those broadcast transmitters until we lower their shields.
Holiday spotted the generators during her flyover on the far side of the battlefield.
Slice through their front, Guardian, and leave only wreckage in your wake. Quickly! If the source of the transmission is destroyed, we may never learn who was behind it.
Don't worry. The Guardian will make it in time.
I never worry, Commander. I only long to see my enemies crushed to a grainy pulp.
Guardian, you've reached the origin of the psionic broadcasts.
Eliminate these traitors, for the honor of the Vanguard and the Empire. These broadcasts are not comprised of words, but images, feelings, and impressions. My optices will show me their contents through a telepathic link, similar to the Mindscape. I see the silhouette of a Scion. They stand at the head of a full Cabal legion. Above them hovers a black pyramid, and behind them stands a towering statue of gold. A statue of my father, Callus. His arms outstretched, hand open, beckoning. I can hear his voice. It calls to me, promising refuge, promising salvation. The broadcast and orbital strike have been disabled. You have my gratitude, Guardian.
But look, those chests are from the Leviathan. Gifts from Kellis. Is he funding this operation?
I'd hoped that my father would live out his days quietly, in exile. But even now, he's an embarrassment to me, and the Cabal.
We'll continue ops in this location to learn more. Meanwhile, the Vanguard will locate the Leviathan and your father.
When you do, I'll see to him myself.
Good, you're here. Keidel's most trusted scion was able to pull the truth from the mind of the last hive you captured. They're preparing something on Earth, in the Cosmodrome. Keidel believes they're stockpiling the light taken from our Guardians. She's having trouble getting precise readings. There's a barrier in the way. The hive are trying to hide what they're doing from us. I need you down there. Find the hive responsible, crush its spirit, tear it from the light, and drag it back here. Then we will lay its evil secrets bare. Do not hesitate. Show them your iron will.
My scions have reported their findings. The Lucent Hive are hoarding the stolen light for a massive ritual.
A ritual to do what?
Undetermined. However, surveillance indicates increased activity in the sector. Disrupt their plans and secure another hive leader, Guardian.
Where did Savathun learn to use the light for her rituals?
She spent enough time as Osiris to learn everything about us.
Even with light of their own, the hive still try to steal ours.
They've been hungry for so long. They don't know how else to be. Looks like the Scion's intel was good. This is the storage facility they reported.
Those containers, they're filled with stolen light. It looks like the hive were doing some kind of purification ritual.
Purifying the light. This blasphemy has gone too far. We should leave no survivors.
I agree. But first, let's get that intel.
Whatever they're planning, destroying their light battery should stop it. There's no need to take them alive.
That's not your call to make. Stick to the plan.
You're stepping into the mindscape now. You will be confronted by the Hive's core beliefs. Those include their devotion to Savathun. Destroy that link.
These risen hive are just as unafraid of death as they were before. They know we can destroy their ghosts, and yet they just keep coming.
Belief is a power. Belief in a cause, in a leader, in a people. Belief can make any sacrifice palatable.
Is that why so many of your Cabal are willing to sacrifice themselves for your ideals? Because they believe in you?
Yes. Just as you were willing to sacrifice yourself for Commander Zavala.
I still don't understand why the Lucent Hive are stockpiling light when they've already got it. Maybe I should take a closer look instead of scraping their skulls for clues.
Sending unprepared Guardians into a Hive throne world is out of the question.
You too? I thought I could count on your trust.
This isn't a matter of trust, Crow. Preparation is about planning to win and accounting for how you might lose.
It's strange how different my lessons sound coming out of your mouth.
Do you think it hurts?
Hurts?
I could feel Savathun behind my eyes when she reached into my mind. What do you think these hive feel when we reach into theirs?
I also find the Scion's methods unsettling. But they can uncover Savathun's plans more efficiently than I ever could.
Better to just put them out of their misery.
Keitel believes these hive might hold deeper secrets. Do not make the mistake of thinking these things deserve your sympathy.
Even though they have the light.
Maybe you were the wrong person to put on this assignment.
They may be our enemies, but this feels like a new low for the Vanguard. For Zavala.
Watch your mouth. You New Light see Zavala as some toothless diplomat, but you wouldn't believe what he sacrificed to become the man he is. Someone who will make the hard choice, and make sure his people understand why.
Then I can't wait to hear the speech about all this.
You want a speech? Today the Vanguard did what had to be done. Mercy prevailed. Speech over.
Say it a little louder. I don't think this guy could hear you. This doesn't look like mercy to me.
Then you're not looking hard enough. Long ago, even before there was a last city, I was deep on patrol in the old forest when a local villager sought me out. They asked me to catch a thief. I told them the Iron Lords were no mercenaries, but I saw their pride as well as their poverty. When they offered me a loaf of black bread instead of coin, I agreed. Just before sunrise, I caught my thief. A young girl, stealing what she could carry. Food when she could find it, coin when she couldn't, weapons to protect what she had taken. There was no fear in her eyes. She said the bandits in the forest ordered her to steal in exchange for protection. The penalty for theft in those times was death. Instead, I pulled the crest from around my neck and pressed it into her hands. I told her the wolves would protect her. In a settlement rich with stolen supplies, I found the bandits and cut them down. 38 lives to spare one. And for a time, I believed that was mercy. Many winters passed before I found myself back in that part of the old forest. This time, no one sought me out. So I sought them instead. Wind blew through rotted wood and rusted metal where the village once stood. And behind it, graves. Then piled stones, then bare mounds of earth, and then a pit. My blood was high. I tore through the forest, hunting for those responsible. Finally, in a settlement rich with stolen supplies, I found her. A lightless woman with my crest around her neck. There was no fear in her eyes. She spoke plainly. When the villagers could no longer tithe, her wolves no longer protected them. She bled them dry, and when they had no more to give, she sent in her men, unleashed her wolves. Mercy to an enemy cannot come at the cost of mercy for their victims. The right path isn't always easy to find. But once you do, the only question is whether you're strong enough to walk it. Consider that the next time you feel pity for our enemies.
Guardian, over the last year, friends and advisors within the last city have fallen victim to psychic manipulation. Those losses and the rediscovery of the Crown of Sorrow meant that we had to develop psychic countermeasures. So I authorized the deployment of this containment unit, developed by Keitel Scions, for psychic analysis of the Hive. The machine can hold the Hive in a painless limbo, neither alive nor dead. This allows Scion operatives to examine their minds, gleaning the information we need. After everything that happened to Osiris, it makes me uncomfortable to rifle through their brains like this. But Guardian lives are at stake. You will be our boots on the ground, and Lord Saladin will oversee the operation to ensure everything goes smoothly. We'll only have this asset for a limited time, so make it worthwhile. Good luck.
Have you ever met someone as frustrating as Crow? The Lucent Hive are killing Guardians in cold blood, and he wants to know if what we're doing hurts. I didn't want to encourage him, but when Zavala came in here, he asked me the same thing. I don't like to revisit the past, but Crow has got to learn perspective. I doubt he even heard what I said. As for me, I'll crack a hive open because I like the sound it makes, but I'd rather defeat them on the battlefield than in a lab. These demons have taken the light. They're killing Guardians. I saw a Hive Knight wielding a void shield. It's sacrilege. Nothing is more important than stopping them. These are desperate times, Guardian. I know it, you know it, and Crow. Let's hope he's a fast learner.
Did you assure him that they aren't suffering?
It was a stupid question.
Saladin.
There's no answer I could have given that would satisfy him. It doesn't matter whether or not they suffer, if they're alive or dead or something in between. He sees himself in them, like he sees himself in Aldrin.
How do you know this?
I asked Keitel Scion. Crow radiates pain, he said. He's the one suffering, and in a way his ghost can't heal. I know what self-loathing feels like.
And I know grief.
This isn't anything like... You're stronger than he is.
And who helped me find that strength? When I was at my lowest. Crow is grieving. For himself, for the innocence he's lost, for the price of the truth.
He's going to hurt himself, or worse, hurt someone else.
You've always been more than a soldier, Saladin. You're a protector. So protect. Guardian, Callus's forces have rebuilt their base more quickly than we anticipated.
My father provided the resources for reconstruction, but a scion created the broadcasts.
We need to know who's behind this up. After what happened with Osiris, the Vanguard is prioritizing matters of psychic warfare. We can't rely on help from Techians and Splicers forever.
I can't believe Callus has the nerve to stick his fat fingers in our business again. Let's run these jokers out of town.
Dead messenger. Keitel and Zavala stood side by side, watching a live feed of the Guardian's assault on the Scion transmission facility, as broadcast by Amanda Holliday's circling aircraft. The Guardian ducked behind cover and pulled out a sleek grenade launcher, recovered during their last assault of the base. They fired into a pack of onrushing warbeasts, sending shrapnel hurling through the air. The Cabal Empress emitted a low rumble as she admired the weapon. Zavala looked up at the enormous ruler with raised eyebrows. Her gaze was fixed on the firefight, her eyes twinkling with violent ardour. The Vanguard commander shut off the open comms and cleared his throat. "Would you like me to send you one of those grenade launchers? I can have Banshee create a Cabal-sized version for you." Keitel looked down at the awoken leader, suddenly aware that her avarice had been on display. She lowered her tusks, which the commander interpreted as equivalent to a blush.
That would be most welcome, Commander,
Keitel replied.
I'd like to fire it into Zivu-Arath's belly and bathe in her soul fire.
Zavala turned back to the screen. You have a passionate spirit, Empress. He did not see it, but beneath her mask, Empress Keitel smiled. It was terrifying.
My father poured many lives and resources into reconstructing these transmitters, all to undermine my rule.
His commitment to this installation worries me. The alliance between Callus and our mystery scion is stronger than I suspected. Where are these troops coming from? Are they all defectors?
Some, not all. If the Leviathan has been reinforced, then my father's cloning operation could account for their numbers. So these are Callus's followers, betrayers and propagandists for the Black Fleet.
Take them out, Guardian. Unmask their commander.
This latest message depicts a scene of violence. I see myself. It's the failed attempt on Commander Zavala's life. Through the assassin's eyes, the memory of his death. He rushes at Commander Zavala, and I feel his surprise when your crow steps in his way. He is helpless as I lift him up. Oh, how he fears me. I throw him down. His spine snaps. His organs rupture. Panic and confusion as his life drains away. The last thing he sees is Commander Zavala and me, standing above him, together. Only one scion left alive would have such intimate knowledge of this. The traitor Yirix.
Excellent work, Guardian. Your operation gave us a glimpse of our true enemy.
The latest broadcast betrays its source. This is the work of the rebel Yirix and her enclave. They were behind the attempted assassination of Commander Zavala. She also possesses light-dampening technology, based on intelligence stolen from your weapon foundries.
If that's the case, then her alliance with Callus and the Black Fleet was inevitable.
Flayer Shell. Valus Orok is a towering figure, looming large within his sparsely furnished ready room. The Cabal Admiral looks out over the gulf of space, flecked with a dusting of stars, and the rust-coloured bead of Mars.
Tell me again how I failed in my duties,
Valus Orok says. He stares not at Mars, but into the glass, looking at his own muted reflection, and that of the small human at his back. Don't sulk, Saladin says, as he brandishes a datapad as though it were a knife. Valus Orok glares at Saladin's visage.
You insult me on my own ship,
he growls. Saladin takes a few steps towards Orok, jutting the datapad forward. You have no one to blame for these security holes but yourself, he asserts. This scion, Yirix, they were under your command. The assassin who tried to kill Zavala at the armistice signing was their direct subordinate. Orok slowly turns, the rumbling rising in his chest. He looms over Saladin more than twice his height.
Are you accusing me of something, Ambassador?
The title is delivered like an epithet. Only of gross incompetence, Saladin retorts, without moving an inch in the face of the Valus's posturing. If the Empress believed you were a traitor, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Saladin's eyes narrow. Laughter rises from Orok, followed by a dismissive wave of one huge hand.
Go then. Return to your vanguard and tell them of my folly. But know this, if what you have uncovered is true, and Yurix serves a separatist movement within the Empire,
The Valis snorts.
and there is more at stake than you realize.
Saladin's head tilts to the side as he reads Orok's expression. In what way?
There is only one person the Scions would swear to, if not the Empress.
Valis Orok explains.
And if they are involved, it could drive her to recklessness.
Name them, Saladin insists. Something to save your honor for this failure. Valis Orok turns to face the window again and the dark of space.
Who else could have such an impact on both the Empress and her empire?
Orok's voice lowers to a whisper.
Her father.
Quintessence 2. Devotion. You brought your own cup. Devrim smiled awkwardly after asking the question. A tea set balanced delicately beside him on the split log he used as a seat. From the other side of the campfire, Saint 14 looked comically oversized as he cradled a blue and white ceramic teacup in one large hand. His helmet was off, set in the dirt beside his feet. A slow smile crept across Saint's mouth as he looked at the cup. Not that I mind, Devrim continued and motioned with his own teacup. It's just, normally, people don't come this prepared for afternoon tea. Although, yours looks like it's, seen a few fights. Though Devrim chuckled, his assessment was accurate. Saint's teacup was chipped around the brim. The handle had been broken off at one point and crudely glued back into place. Saint laughed to himself.
It is a memento,
he said.
The cup is nothing special, just ceramic and paint. But it is the damage that makes it important.
He finished his tea and offered the cup out to Devrim, who carefully took it to inspect.
I forget where I got it. It sat on a shelf in my home long before Osiris and I lived together, before he was exiled. One day, he barges into my home looking for an argument,
Saint said, watching Devrim.
Osiris, he gets very heated when he is angry. Arms like this.
Saint waved his arms around in pantomime.
Very animated.
Devrim laughed as he handed Saint's teacup back. That sounds about right.
We argue. Very loud. He accidentally knocks my teacup off shelf, breaks it,
Saint said, lowering his voice.
The argument stops. We both feel bad. Osiris apologizes. I apologize. Then...
Saint stared into the fire.
Then he touches my cheek. His eyes say things that words cannot. He leaves. I sweep up the shards and...
Saint's voice trailed off into nothingness. The amusement left Devrim's eyes as he looked down into the rippling surface of his tea. How is he? It was the question Devrim had been too afraid to ask. Saint's shoulders slouched in response, and that was almost all the reply Devrim needed.
Not good,
Saint quietly confessed.
He is alive, but his body is there, his mind is not. It is like he is on a journey and cannot find his way home. Or...
Saint shook his head. He honestly wasn't sure. No one was. Devrim set his teacup down on the log. He rose and crossed the distance to Saint, and then laid a hand on the Titan's shoulder. Devrim looked into Saint's vibrant, mechanical eyes with sympathy. "Mark and I are having Soraya over for dinner tonight," he said with a small, hesitant smile. "I know it's short notice, but you should come."
Saint looked away. "I shouldn't. I should be with Osiris in case he..."
"Osiris has many people waiting by his side tonight. He isn't alone. You shouldn't be either," Devrim pressed as he let his hand slip away from Saint's shoulder. "Dinner, please." Saint stared down at the chips in his teacup and fell deeper into the memory of that day. He would give anything to be able to live it over again, to have Osiris by his side, to have something as simple as the touch of a hand on his cheek. But that day isn't today.
"Okay,"
Saint whispered, "and it may not be tomorrow either." Recurrent Impact. Crow feels unease when he touches the active Cyorium. There's a throbbing sensation at the base of his skull. It starts at the back of his head and works its way forward. A compelling aura flows from the Cyorium, ushering buried memories to the surface of Crow's mind. Aldrin Sov felt unease as he stood with fingertips against the dark shard. Everything was wrong, but he ignored it. There was a throbbing sensation at the base of his skull. It burrowed underneath and snaked in between his vertebrae, an impulse taking hold in his nerves that he was helpless to follow. A whisper he strained to hear. "Save her." The Cyorium vibrates against the nails of his ungloved fingertips. Lucent hive bodies twitch in unfeeling response to the mental scrying. Crow feels the rhythm of alien thoughts sweep over him like wind on stone, catching in ruts and divots worn by time. He sees glimpses, reflections of an end to justify the means. A voice rattled Aldrin Sov's mind, the cool tones of his sister slipping into well-worn grooves as he watched dreams carve themselves into his reality. Lucidity flashed like panicked gasps under thin sheets of ice. His desire taken, wishes turning sour in his mouth as he spoke them, tasting no longer of promise, now only of regret. Peace of mind. Mithrax squeezed through the tight, bizarre alleyway. Visiting the tower made him feel out of place, like a creature moving through a world designed for smaller beings. Which, he supposed, he was. As he reached back to pull his ether tubes free from a snag in the jagged brickwork, he felt something collide sharply with his elbow. His mind was suddenly filled with a flare of hot bitterness, a burst of bladed anger. Mithrax looked down to see a scion, clothed in Empress Keitel's colours, wincing in pain and rubbing its eye.
"Forgive me," Mithrax said graciously. "You must be the one assisting the Guardians against the Hive."
The scion looked up at him, then ducked its head in apology. The vision immediately dissolved from Mithrax's mind.
"I am Mithrax, Kell of House Light,"
he said, putting a hand to his chest. The scion paused, then gestured to its chest and Mithrax's head. It held its hand open, as if waiting for a response. Mithrax nodded his assent, and into his mind was placed a scattering of orange cubes, a spiraling helix of inky fins, and the sensation of biting through an unripe fruit. The vision faded.
"That is your true name?"
Mithrax asked. The scion gave a short bow. Mithrax smiled.
I understand why Guardians simply call you the Scion, he said.
A swarm of smooth yellow planes fluttered through Mithrax's mind. Laughter. Mithrax stepped to the side, and the Scion moved past him. As it did so, there was a final vision. A wink of warm, cheerful brightness, fading, but promising to return.
To you as well,
Mithrax called, and the Scion vanished around the corner. Tusked Allegiance Plate. Mithrax delicately pushed the low curtain aside as he entered the bedroom. Tall shelves crowded him, cluttered with relics from Mercury and beyond. Piles of intricate scrolls, silver hourglasses that turned of their own accord, ceramic pots of red soil sprouting delicate metallic vines beneath glass domes. An enormous feathered mantle was mounted carefully on a wooden stand and crowned with a bird-like cowl. The hulking form of Saint 14 sat in a wooden chair facing the bed where, impossibly small beneath the blankets, rested the man known as Osiris. Mithrax rapped politely on the doorframe.
My friend,
Saint 14 said.
It is good of you to come.
Mithrax approached Saint and bowed.
It is an honor to be invited,
he said.
These visits are pleasant to me.
He held out the covered dish he was carrying in his lower arms, but Saint's eyes remained fixed on Osiris. The Titan took a ragged breath. His voice was a hoarse whisper.
Could the Scion machine connect my mind with his, so that I might share his dreams?
Mithrax felt useless. He spoke softly.
The Scion tells me the subject must have residual activity for a reading, and Osiris has been asleep very long. Besides, the connection you seek joins the light of one being to the light of another, and Osiris is lightless. Yes.
Saint finished flatly. He leaned forward in his chair, his elbows on his knees, hands clasped before him. He was silent for some time.
I will let him sleep alone,
Saint finally said, and caressed Osiris's hand with impossible tenderness.
When he wakes, we will dream together once more.
He adjusted the blankets, stood, and nodded toward the covered dish Mithrax still clutched awkwardly.
I am hoping that is not more eggplant,
he said. Mithrax coughed on his ether.
The eggplant is most nourishing,
he protested weakly, and Saint groaned.
We must be getting close to whatever the enemy is hiding. Their hostilities are escalating on all fronts. The single-minded cruelty of the new hive reminds me of the old warlords. It's as though I never left the deep forests. Before all this, I was one of the last in the tower to have ever killed a ghost. But it seems that old brutality never stopped following us. If the hive have taken our light, let us take their ferocity. Let us force them into the mindscape and smother their false light. Let us tear their schemes from their minds. Return to the battle, Guardian. Show them they've done nothing but teach us how to destroy them.
Tusked Allegiance Gauntlets. Crow was already reloading when the strange hive's lifeless body crashed to the forest floor. Glint flew toward the corpse without a word. Crow pretended not to notice and kept walking through the woods. He's been in a mood all day, Glint thought with a static sigh. he could use some time alone. When he reached the hive, Glint resisted the absurd reflex to scan it for compatibility. Instead, he simply assessed, noting the strong arms that could handle the recoil from heavy weapons, the thick shell built to absorb all manner of firepower, the remains of a bony shield that sizzled nearby, powerful enough to protect. The space next to Glint fluctuated as a bone-white hive ghost appeared. The two froze warily in midair. "Hey," the hive ghost whispered after a moment. "It's okay." Its voice was surprisingly soft. Its green eye flickered reassuringly, and it began to focus light. Glint bobbed unsteadily. Crow was 50 yards off, moving carefully through the trees. "You shouldn't. It'll be alright," it said, and hovered lower to the ground, pouring light into the fallen hive. The surrounding ferns trembled with the sudden flow of energy. "Wait," Glint pressed, but the ghost ignored him as the thick armour of the hive began to reform. "Crow?" Glint screamed. "Crow, here!" And he flew to him without turning back. Quintessence 3. Cold Forging. "Eyes up, new lights." Shorehand spoke to the group of Guardians assembled at the edge of the Cosmodrome. A field of ancient automobiles spread out behind him. The Guardians gathered at uneasy attention, fidgeting in their new armour. Han leapt onto the hood of a rusted-out car so he could be seen over the massive Titan standing in the front. "You may have heard they're coming for you," Han said. "That the hive god of trickery got her claws on the light somehow, and now she's sending the toughest baddies humanity has ever faced to drain the life from your carcasses." Han shrugged. "You heard right." The Guardians lifted their weapons and eyed the skies warily. They're coming to the Cosmodrome because the stories they're most frightened of have their beginnings here. They want to wipe out a whole generation of Guardians at its source. Han pointed at the Guardians, who were still holding their weapons anxiously. "They think that they can hit you while you're all still green, before you've got your feet under you." A haggard crow, cawing harshly, rose from somewhere within the sea of twisted metal. Han smiled and pulled a small canister from his belt, gave it a sharp twist, and tossed it carelessly into the row of cars behind him. The Guardians leaned forward in anticipation, but nothing happened. "And that's where they're wrong," he continued. "They have the light, same as you. They're strong, same as you. But you kicked your way out of your coffins right here in the heart of old Russia, like so many of the greats before you. And you found yourself in the vanguard." Han waited for a moment, as if tasting the air. "And being part of the vanguard? That means something. The most powerful warriors the world has ever known are here for you. Ikora, Zavala, Saladin, Shax, Saint 14, the Guardians, who have driven the hive back into their holes again and again. They're up in the tower, and they have your back. Show them you're willing to fight for the Vanguard. They'll show you things you wouldn't believe. You'll learn how to weave a shield out of starlight. You'll learn how to wield a blade as hot as the sun." Behind him, a sudden explosion sent a geyser of dirt and rusted metal high into the air. The startled Guardians huddled together. "And you'll learn the importance of trip mine grenades," Han finished as he turned. Through the settling dust, he could make out the crumpled remains of a loosened hive knight. "1 second," he said. He crept towards the remains, shot his hand into the clearing smoke, and withdrew it with a hive ghost squirming in his fist. The ghost's sharp shell dug into Han's palm. Red blood flowed down over its flickering green iris. "You're all going to die here," it hissed. Han leapt back onto the hood of the car, still holding the ghost tightly. "Ghosts are tough to kill. Both ours and theirs," he said, It takes overwhelming firepower, or a special kind of weapon, something outside the laws of cause and effect. Something para-causal. Han fixed his gaze on the assembled Guardians, and crushed the ghost in his fist. It burst in a flash of bubbling flame. Something like us, Han said. Like you. A roar echoed from the distant forest. Dark flames erupted from the tree line as wizards took to the sky. The ground shook as a clot of bellowing ogres tore across the field, flinging the remains of ruined cars aside as they charged. You, shouted Han over the cacophony, each and every one of you are weapons, chosen by the light. And sure, so are these Hive, and they're every bit as strong as you when you're alone. But being part of the vanguard, Han turned toward the Hive army. His gun began to glow a brilliant gold. That means you're never alone. And when the Lucent Hive reached Shorhan, eager to feast on the new lights, they met the vanguard instead.
You have done well. The Hive are in disarray. I spoke to the Scion running the equipment while you were gone, the one Keitel trusts above the others. I used words, while I allowed him to use telepathy. He hosted me in his mindscape. It was not what I had envisioned, a neutral place where we met as equals. He shared with me openly. He sees flashes of gray and red in the minds of the Hive. He interprets this as a vision. We will soon know where to attack. I was struck by the tone of his thoughts. His actions are heavy with a sense of duty. He does not enjoy working on an unwilling mind, no matter how wicked it may be. I mentioned Keitel, and he radiated warm feelings. Harsh, brutal feelings, but still warm. He and Keitel share an old friendship. Crow has been sulking more than usual lately. Perhaps I should encourage him to speak with the Scion as well. It may do him good. I will contact you when we have taken the new information from the Hive. Until then, Iron Will, Guardian.
I didn't expect your people to deploy a cannon quite that large. I don't think the Hive did either.
A cannon is unexceptional, no matter the size. But a Guardian with the tusks to climb into one and fire themselves at a Hive command ship?
When death is no longer an obstacle, it becomes a remarkable teacher.
Lessons learned in your crucible.
And the Iron Banner. Lord Saladin is very proud.
He may not appreciate the comparison, but he thinks like a Primus.
Empress, I know this is a sensitive topic, but how long do you believe your forces can commit to a sustained war against our enemies?
Until the last of us draws their final breath.
We have a loose assessment of your numbers, estimates on your fleet in orbit. If this is to become a permanent alliance...
Our war with the Hive is not a matter of strategy or force, Commander, but one of honor. Billions died on Torobottle. Countless more on other worlds of the Empire that collapsed to infighting or further invasion by Xivu Arath. Outside our rituals, the death of even one Cabal demands reprisal. A life for a life. The Hive have accrued a great debt.
And who will raise a monument to your people's honor when the last Cabal dies? Waging a war of vengeance.
You.
Tusked allegiance mark. The huddled Guardians fell into shocked silence as Commander Zavala's silhouette loomed over the table. A hooded figure sat, suddenly enveloped by the shadow, and leaned backward until his head bumped against Zavala's chest plate. He tilted his chin up and craned his neck to fix Zavala with an upside-down smile. His hood fell back. "What's with the face, Big Blue?" Drifter said. "Somebody's gotta teach him how to play offense." "Get this out of my tower." There was iron in the Titan's voice. An old fear split Drifter's face. He leaned forward, swept the contents of the table into his knapsack. Tangled cables, a red lens, shards of bone, a green eye spinning madly in a jar of thick fluid, and left without a word.
Our enemies have started a psychic arms race, and the Vanguard is struggling to keep up.
Psionic propaganda continues to erode my legions, despite our operations.
Now Urix leads a powerful group of Scions against us, with Callus and the Black Fleet at their backs. We may not be able to strike at her or your father, yet.
But we can limit their influence, kill their transmission, and their collaborators.
The amount of material flooding into this location is staggering. It can't all be Red Legion surplus.
Correct. The rebels must control a production outpost in a nearby system.
Clear the LZ, Guardian. Got a new toy for you. Courtesy of Empress Keitel. I have to admit, she's got style.
Urix and her rebels are not to be underestimated. Their clairvoyance is matched only by the Vex.
Future Sight is a treacherous weapon. Our future war cult learned that the hard way.
With respect, Commander Zavala, Scions do not make such blunders.
Empress, you said Urix was behind the attempt on my life. But why?
Urix is motivated by the notion of a unified Scion nation, free to develop their full potential. She believes the Flayers nearly accomplished that with the Sundial, until you killed them. These Scions are traitors and servants to the rebel Urix.
Eliminate all resistance and secure that broadcast console.
This message shows some sort of Scion ritual. No. A religious ceremony. It's in the far past, so distant, before their assimilation into the Cabal. The feeling is difficult to describe, but I know it well. Something like militant nostalgia. The ritual leader, an elder, is speaking about how the spark of divinity exists in all of us. How we are unified beyond death. An eternal chorus. It's peaceful. And utter nonsense. Those beliefs were brutally subjugated by the Scions themselves long before we conquered them. Urix clearly wishes to stir a sense of forgotten psionic unity under the banners of Callus and the Black Fleet. Well done. With each operation, our enemy's intentions become clearer.
That's exactly what worries me. Savathun already infiltrated the last city using psychic manipulation. And now the Black Fleet has added Callus and Scion rebels to its ranks.
Such things make our coalition more valuable by the day. Sharpen your mind as I sharpen my blade. When the time comes, we'll cut my father to ribbons. Together.
Razor's Edge. Glint. Yeah, buddy? His ghost's voice is eager. It had been a few hours since Crow last spoke. Is there anything you hate about yourself? Crow turns in the seat of his tree saddle, overlooking a sparsely forested valley split by clear trustland waterways. Oh, whoa, that's intense. Well, it feels like my guts were pulled out in different directions, and I'm just standing here trying to reel them in. Nothing fits back the way it was. He had walked behind a god, while she led him on a leash of his entrails. one he'd accepted in enthusiastic fashion. The thought of it was surreal, like another life presented in horrifying detail, in vivid, waking visions. It was a wound worsened by the sight of the severity, and, of course, he couldn't look away. Well, that's rather graphic, Glint chirps, processing. Do you really have to put, it back in? Is it maybe okay being out? Forget it, Crow relents. Different question. Sounds good, Glint agrees with an awkward chuckle. Do you think the spear? Crow stops himself and reforms his thoughts. Wherever Savathun pulled Aldrin from, he was always buried somewhere in me, right? Maybe I could use the spear to step into that place, step into my past and put whatever's left of him to rest. Crow exhales and stares blankly into the horizon. I want him gone. If the spear could let me do that... I don't know. Oh, Crow, I don't think it works that way. Glint is quiet long enough for Crow to shift nervously. Look, Crow, we've been through a lot of bad things together, but you've never been the bad part about any of it. I wouldn't change a single thing about you, even a little. Glint sinks into Crow's lap. Besides, that last guy didn't have me. Grand Overture. So, you're the new guy. Anna Bray cracks a half smile. Can't be worse than the last scions that Red and I dealt with. She impatiently taps her heel on her workbench as the scion hurriedly checks linkages and nodes on the neural coupling device around her head. Words and images skip across Anna's mind like stones. Remain calm. Even though you are defenseless, I do not possess a starship. A sound resembling laughter follows. Funny. Anna chuckles impatiently. Okay, I've been setting this up for months. Are you done with the safety checks? Jinju flies by Anna and runs a scan over the engram. Be nice. A digital timepiece drains towards 0, while the scion inundates her mind with questions. My light, splicer-tech, brain tubes. Yeah, I got it, Anna says. Plug my brain into Red already, and let's do this. Her voice quickens with excitement. The scion finishes linking cables to a splicer-tech receptacle housing Rasputin's engram, and gives Anna an awkward thumb pointing up. The scion forms an interlocking image in her mind. A tangle of wires. Slowly, her perspective sifts through them and stops at a radiant centre. She hears the words, forgotten vestige, made remembered. That's the plan, Stan, Anna exclaims. Drop me in. I can already hear the Tchaikovsky. She stares down the ticking timer. 3, 2, 1. Anna blinks. She stands in a vast thicket of thorn and rot. A warmth radiates from deep within the thicket. Anna blinks. She presses through bramble as barbs draw blood. Her sense of self wavers. She finds her grip on a searing hot spike, shifting her senses red like an adrenal rush. Anna blinks. She kneels at the spike and rips it from the ground. A Valkyrie javelin is in her grasp. Anna blinks. The thorned vines around her recoil and wither in the heat. She feels something within the javelin, faint and weak, but alive.
Load your guns, Guardian. The Scion has discovered the truth behind the Hive's plans. They're vying for control of the Scarlet Keep on the moon. The Lucent Hive want to take it from Xivu Arath's forces and claim it for themselves. They're using their stockpiled light, taken from dead Guardians, and trying to manifest Savathun's throne world. If they're successful, they'll launch a full-scale invasion of Earth. This was their plan from the beginning. Take our home, corrupt our planet, overrun us, remove us from the universe. And when we are gone, forgotten, they will become the Guardians. Go to the Scarlet Keep. Summoning the throne world will take an elaborate ritual. Stop it. Keitel has pledged her full support and is already approaching the moon with her forces. Let that be the last thing these hives see. Unity in the face of oblivion. Show them that even if they destroy us, they will never destroy who we are. I'm counting on you, young wolf.
The Lucent Hive are attempting to retake the Witch Queen's position on your moon.
Transporting an invasion force of this size must require a massive hive ritual.
Crow, do you have eyes on the ritual? Crow, do you read me? Damn it.
Push forward without him. We can't split our focus while the Lucent Hive is staging an invasion.
My Brachus enters the field as your ally, Guardian. We will show you how Cabal deal with the Hive.
Looks like the Hive saw us coming. Without Crow's recon, we're flying blind.
My scions report an energy surge up ahead. It must be the Hive ritual we seek.
Good. Let's crush the ritual, bag their leader, and shut down this invasion. This must be the ritual that Keitel's scions reported.
Those receptacles are focusing their stolen light. Bring down their tribute bearers and disrupt the portal.
Once we halt their reinforcements, we'll chop the head off this snake.
Has Crow confirmed? Is that our target?
He's still missing.
My scions confirm. Target acquired.
Engage, but do not destroy, Guardian.
Once my warriors send you into the mindscape, you may be as brutal as you wish. My scions have bound the Lucent Hive for you.
Break their faith in Savathun and snuff out their light.
Well done. The invasion is halted. For now.
A feat made possible by the Guardian and my psionic warriors, who have proven their worth yet again.
When the Lucent Hive make their next move, the Vanguard and the Empire will stop it. Together.
Let's not put the tongue before the tusk, small man. Trust is still being built. But for today, at least, I am happy to share a victory.
Someone needs to track down Crow. I'll see you back at the tower.
Quintessence 4. Shutdown. Crow pulled up his hood and watched as the Guardian's ship roared out of the hangar to race after Keitel's flagship on the way to the Scarlet Keep. He kept to the shadows as he made his way up to the helm, pushing through the throngs in the bazaar with an easy grace, inconspicuous even in his recognizable garb. His light movements belied the twist of guilt in his stomach. Saladin had requested him to handle recon on the mission, yet here he was, creeping instead through the tower like a common thief. There would be consequences, of course, but he could accept that. We all have to make sacrifices, he thought. He held his breath as he opened the doors to the Sisorium. As they clicked shut behind him, he threw back his hood and allowed himself a sigh and a smile. Crow looked up at the Lucent Hive suspended in the holding tanks. Not dead, but certainly not alive. The Scion sat in its chair, twitching faintly, its long fingers moving as though tracing through water. Pulses of blue energy radiated out from the Scion's skull and into the depths of the machine. "I've got some good news," Crow said pleasantly to the Scion as he passed. The Scion, as always, said nothing. Crow didn't mind. It probably took all its energy to keep the hive preserved well enough to skim through their memories. "This war is over, thanks to you," Crow continued. "They sent the Guardian, and when the Guardian sets out to do something, it gets done." The skin on his neck prickled at an old memory. "Believe me." Crow approached a display interface covered in Cabal runes. He paged through menus until he saw the familiar Vanguard symbol nestled in a corner. He pressed it, and the language on the screen changed. He shook his head in wonder. "Imagine what we'll be able to make in the future when we're not busy squeezing secrets from the hive." Crow frowned, looking up at the holding tanks. "After all, this ugliness is behind us," he said, and resumed scrolling through the menus. "Now, how do we shut this thing down?" He found his answer in a hidden directory of commands. Security, override, shutdown, immediate. He paused for a moment, imagining what Saladin's reaction would be, but he, of all people, should understand. After all, Crow said quietly to himself, the right path isn't always easy to find. Crow executed the command. He walked toward the Scion as the lights on the machine began to turn red in sequence. "Let's get you out of here, friend," he said as the Scion began to stir. It blinked slowly and opened its eye. Crow smiled and waved. "Good morning," he said. "Would you like to go get some ramen?" The pulsing current running through the tubes in the back of the Scion's head slowed, and Crow winced as a white-hot pinpoint of pain stabbed into his mind, shrieking a single word, clear and impossibly loud. "Stop!" The machine sputtered. Sparks erupted from the central hub. Cracks spiderwebbed across the holding tanks. Electricity arced from the control panel, and Crow staggered backwards. Without warning, the energy current in the tubes suddenly reversed. Waves of blue quickly flowed back toward the Scion. He was pulling at the cables connecting him to the chair when the first blast of feedback hit him. His body spasmed with pain. Wave after wave of psionic energy pounded into the base of the Scion's skull. His muscles stood out in sharp relief as he pulled against the cables, his hands desperate claws, his face stretched with terror. The pulses thrummed faster and faster, and the Scion began to scream, a high, thin noise. He beat at his own head with one spindly hand and reached the other out toward Crow. Crow reached back as another wave of energy hit the Scion, bursting his retina, turning his eye into a muddy, black sphere. Crow recoiled in horror, his mind pierced by unimaginable pain, and he fell to the floor in a heap. The machine groaned, hissing smoke, the holding tanks boiling, the hive bodies inside dancing grotesquely in the roiling fluid. The blaring sirens began to overpower the hoarse, sustained screaming. Something snapped inside the machine, and it shuddered to a stop. And, finally, silence.
Crow, what happened?
I didn't mean to.
A full abort sequence initiated from this location. What have you done?
I shut it down. I didn't know it would kill the Scion.
Keitel sends an emissary to the tower, and you kill him. Can you even understand the repercussions this will have?
I'll face them. What the Vanguard was doing here wasn't right.
It's not your place to judge.
You said the right path can be hard to find, but when you do, you have to be strong enough to walk it.
I also said mercy to an enemy must not come at the cost of their victims.
We already disrupted Savathun's ritual on the moon. I couldn't stand by while we did this to these Hive.
The Hive are monsters.
So was I.
When Keitel learns of this, I hope the Vanguard can survive your conscience.
You understand, don't you?
Crow, how do you justify the innocent blood on your hands? It was honorable.
It was an accident.
The Cabal word for accident has 2 syllables. One is fault, the other responsibility. Honor the scion whose life was taken. A life for a life. That is our way.
That is your way, not ours.
You will not deny us justice!
Do what you believe is right. I did.
I will honor you. You demand a life for a life. Take mine.
Cabal reward bravery in the face of death. I accept. Your life is forfeit. You will serve the rest of your days on my war council as Brachus Forge.
Then it's done.
Zavala, you can't...
Not a word.
I suppose you're here to say goodbye, eh, young wolf? Or to demand to know why? Because I chose to. I saw you fighting alongside Keitel's warriors on the moon. A strong alliance. The Vanguard needs it now more than ever before. But Zavala, I also saw the look in his eyes. He would have thrown it all away to protect one of his people. And for a time, he would have believed that was mercy. I'm starting to think people don't really listen to my stories. I was given a wish once, and I chose to fight a dragon, because we are what we survive. I will serve this alliance. My shoulders have borne more weight than this. My honor holds its luster through deeper stains. If this is the cost of tomorrow for the Vanguard, I will gladly pay it. Keitel stayed her hand when I placed myself at her mercy. Because she chose to. That I can respect. I told Keitel she'd have to kill me to keep me from the Iron Banner. She said that wouldn't be necessary. In fact, she has a few ideas of her own. This may prove interesting. I left something in the helm for Crow. If he's half as smart as he thinks he is, he'll understand what it means. Until our paths cross again, young wolf.
It's over, Guardian. The Lucent Brood will never take the Scarlet Keep, and their invasion force is in shambles. I'm grateful Saladin stepped in when he did. He preserved the Cabal alliance without bloodshed. I'm afraid I was about to do something rash. All these centuries later, and Saladin is still saving me from myself. I decommissioned the psychic analysis program, against Keitel's recommendations. I suggested she continue to collect the dead Hive lieutenants for incineration, but that seemed to put her mind at ease. She's been true to her word. Crow's life debt is paid. Our coalition is back on solid ground. I have my reservations. But Saladin believes this is the best path forward. The Scion is avenged in the eyes of the Cabal, a gift that I assure you is not lost on the Empress. And most importantly, humanity finally has a voice on her war council. We must respect Saladin's choice.
It should have been me. I could have died for something I believed in.
You lack the self-awareness to know what you believe in. Your mind is a storm of guilt, both your own and someone else's. We put a gun in your hand and told you who we wanted you to be. And now you're struggling to reconcile a lifetime of Uldren Sov's experience with only a few years of your own. We all die a final death. Yours was not meant to be today.
I was wrong about you, Saladin. I'm so sorry.
I respect you for sticking to your convictions, but let this be another lesson. Doing what you believe is right, as you have, as I have, doesn't absolve you from the consequences of those actions. Someone must always pay the price.
Guardian, Yurix continues to broadcast psychic messages across the system. Unrest among my scions is high, and defections are increasing.
We've knocked this operation down several times, but Callus seems willing to rebuild.
If his cloning enterprise is operational again, then loss of life will be no deterrent until that life is his own. My father was never known for his strength of commitment, yet this operation has his full devotion.
Whatever happened aboard the Glycon must have changed him, and not for the better.
Good job clearing the air, Guardian. Got a present for you, and she weighs more than my bird. Roll right over him and don't look back.
My father and I are estranged, but he would not create such a sophisticated operation out of spite alone. Whatever will my father now serves motivates him beyond his usual pettiness.
Empress, you saw what the darkness did to those aboard the Glycon.
My father was corrupted by pride long before he communed with the voice in the darkness. He could not be more disgraceful now than he was as Emperor. These are the emissaries of Yurix, Callus, and the Black Fleet. Destroy them. This latest transmission from Yurix shows the same images over and over, flashing almost too quickly to perceive. They are indistinct, as if multiple pictures were laid atop one another, variations on a theme. These must be psionic divinations, impressions of things yet to come. I never dreamed I would see them for myself. I see a city besieged, the ship stealer revived, the Leviathan reborn, your traveler infected by darkness. These are the futures our enemies seek. We must remain united if we are to forge a different path.
Hard fought, Guardian. We've stopped Yurix's recruitment campaign and gained valuable intel on the Black Fleet's tactics.
They will try to use our families against us. First it was the warlock Osiris, and now Callus. But if they thought that wearing my father's face would blunt my fury, they are mistaken.
Tusked Allegiance Helm.
Again!
Soktol, fifth of the light, felt flames surge through his body as he was resurrected. He became aware of many things at once. The altar beneath him, the roaring of acolytes, the powerful grip on his shoulders, which even now began to crack under the pressure. Above him, a trio of wizards held his ghost tight, its bleached shell ensnared by ebony tendrils of controlling spellcraft. It pulled against the bonds, but could do nothing but look down at him helplessly.
Sing of her lies, speak of her truths.
The voice was everywhere. As Soktol strained to sit up, something slammed him down, pounding his chitinous skull into the stone again and again. He screeched as the bony frill surrounding his face splintered and snapped loose. He felt his jaw dislodge, felt his own teeth crush against his face, felt himself crack and shatter. Blackness. And then...
Again!
As his shell knit and restored soulfire flowed anew, Soktol, fifth of the light, shuddered awake. The acolytes roared again. They crowded the altar, surrounded by a haze of green. Soktol peered upward at the ogre, pinning him against the altar. It tightened its grip on his shoulders, claws crackling with wrathful energy. It shook its massive head, crowned in an emerald corona, and bellowed in a voice that was not its own.
Your strength becomes mine, as will hers. Speak.
Soktol concentrated the light in his armoured hand and began to form a grenade. But the shrieking acolytes reached forward and tore his fingers apart in their claws. Soktol bared his teeth and hissed up at the ogre, whose eyes rolled with fury as a blast of soulfire erupted from its mouth. Soktol opened his jaws to howl as he was obliterated. Blackness. And then...
Again.
Quintessence 5. Rite proven. Saladin hears Keitel's voice boom over the endless drone of the Imperial cruiser's engines. Grains of bloodied sand trickle from the ceiling of the Cabal-sized elevator and fall against his helm as he rides up to the brightly lit arena floor.
Gurren Urok, Valus in the Empress's service. You challenged the Iron Lord Saladin Forge, Brachus in the Empress's service. You outrank this man.
Her words circle the spectator stands, sending a hush through the gathered crew.
As it should be.
Urok, his challenger, stands not 10 paces in front of him. Keitel presses.
Why challenge him? Did this man slight you?
Urok turns to her, kicking up sand.
He walks our halls, trains our soldiers, and shares our meals as if he is Cabal. That slights. He is not Cabal. I'm not the only one to say so.
Saladin looks to Keitel. He'd attempted to stop this, tried to staunch unnecessary violence with reason, but tradition is not so easily denied. Earlier. This is ridiculous. Killing your officers only weakens us. Saladin stepped toward Keitel. Even seated in her chambers, her eyes were level with his.
Funny how our perspectives have shifted since we first met.
Keitel grunted. Why are you humouring this?
Quieting rebellious words does not weaken us. It binds authority in blood.
Kaito looked back to myriad datapads on her desk.
If he submits, no one has to die.
That seems likely, Saladin quipped sarcastically. Kaito stood.
He wants you stripped of your rank and made to clean war beast pens. Indefinitely.
And that is worth his life?
I know pride isn't a foreign concept to you, Lord.
Kaito spat out his title and walked past him. Saladin sneered. The Empress turned to him as she opened her chamber doors, ushering him out.
What if you lose?
He huffed so hard, he almost choked. Now, Kaito nods to Saladin. To Orok. They nod back.
When the rite of proving was conceived, it was to be a level field of battle. We honor that tradition here.
Kaito slams a fist down for emphasis before pointing to the arena floor.
Single combat by blades. One life, no light. Death or submission determines the victor.
The crowd erupts in roars as a weapon rack rises from the floor. Orok lifts a heavy cleaver from the rack. Saladin sees his own axe there. He glares at Kaito for taking it without permission, and lifts the axe. With weapons drawn, the rite of proving begins. Orok lunges and thrusts the cutting edge of his cleaver towards Saladin's ribs. Saladin sidesteps the massive Cabal blade and bats it down with the haft of his axe. The two test each other's range and speed with a series of back and forth half-committed strikes, until Orok gains favourable footing and bursts forward to swing at Saladin's waist. Saladin narrowly tumbles over the cleaver. Sparks of contact spit from his leg guards. He lands on his knees and jabs the blunt head of his axe against Orok's exposed throat. "This is your one chance to yield," Saladin says as the Valus sputters for air and stumbles backward. Orok's cough turns to laughter. He kicks up a cloud of sand and leaps with his cleaver brandished overhead. Saladin wipes granules from his visor and raises his axe to block Orok's heavy swing. The Iron Lord absorbs the shock and controls Orok's blade, sliding it down to catch on his axe head, and pivoting the weapon's hefty pommel to butt Orok hard in the face. Orok staggers away and slashes wildly, splitting Saladin's visor and drawing blood. The Iron Lord throws his ruined helm to the ground and wipes blood. He advances, ducking under a deterring swing, parries a second chop away, and severs the Valus's hand. "Yield!" Saladin growls as blood pours onto the sand. Orok looks to him, to the cleaver still clutched in his detached hand, and back to Saladin.
Never to you.
He dives for the cleaver. Saladin swings, catching Orok's jaw, spewing blood. Orok tenses for a moment, then falls limp. The Iron Lord sighs and wrenches his axe free, painted as a warrior in the eyes of the Cabal. Cheers erupt. Kaito's voice cuts through the frenzied crowd.
Rise, Valus, Forge.
Greetings, Guardian. I come bearing enlightening news. Bracchus Forge has earned himself quite a reputation among the Cabal. Within his first 3 days aboard my ship, he was challenged to 6 rites of proving. He prevailed in them all. One of those challenges came from an officer on my war council. Bracchus Forge defeated him with a single thunderous blow. As is our custom, he was promoted to Valus for his courage. He has also started a version of the Iron Banner aboard my flagship, at my request. There were many volunteers for his training. He calls his legionaries Iron War Beasts. We have much to learn from one another. and Valor's Forge is an excellent ambassador. I dare say he even likes it here. And if a human can ascend to the rank of Valis in such a short time, imagine what the future holds. May we all live long enough to find out.
Reckless Endangerment. EDZ 224107. You can't beat Hive into submission, or threaten them with pain. They live pain. Speak it, even. But they're vulnerable to hubris. Glint whirs, moving to get a better angle. You're lucky that cleaver didn't chop you in half. Crow understands the danger. Glint's sure said it enough. But he knows that his intel saves fire teams from ambushes and uncovers Lucent Hive positions. Self-destruction be damned. You can't argue with results. Just because I can fix you, doesn't mean you shouldn't protect yourself. Glint hums. Rain washes blood from accumulated holes in Crow's armour. There is thunder, but he can't see the flash. Cosmodrome 224112. Crow trades blows with a lucid wizard until she grounds him with an arc lance. He writhes across the dirt. She promises to sacrifice his light to a vessel in the Hellmouth. He feigns begging. The wizard cackles with delight and lets slip her commander's name on the moon. Crow thanks her with a well-placed solar blade. Glint materializes as Crow calls the Accipiter. It's not what Saladin would do. Crow winces as Glint stitches the gushing split in his neck with light-threaded restoration. The Hive need to think they're winning, Crow says through gritted teeth. They monologue, like their words are torture, reveal tiny scraps as they mock him when they think he's done for. And he lets them. He collects the grains of truth and turns them into something useful. Moon 224120. Crow stares down over 30 Hive emerging from the gaping Hellmouth. 2 light-bearing knights lead them. They shriek and posture over the corpse of a freshly drained guardian. You should go, Crow says to Glint, removing his helmet. He sets it on the stone at his feet. The thin moon air is coarse with particulate. He dashes toward the gnashing swarm. At least put your helmet back on, Glint calls after him meekly. I'll get help. Solar light flows through Crow. Come on, you want me. I'm here. Hand flexes around the grip of his cannon. Flames sputter from fingertips across cylinder. A series of firebolts crack from Crow's freshly kindled golden gun. He unloads as many rounds as he can before the Hive close the distance to him. It's enough to incinerate the knight and their ghost, but not the army of Thrall still rushing him down. Crow primes a trip mine grenade as the churn of Thrall claws tear him apart. Crow opens his eyes. Glint floats over him beside a strange woman. That was a wasteful life, Prince of the Reef, she says disapprovingly. Don't call me that. He sits up in a hanging trail of moondust, realizing she likely dragged his body from the Hellmouth. He's not a fan of nicknames, Glint whispers to her. Very well. I'm Eris Morn. A friend, the woman croons with an outstretched hand. Right. Crow takes her hand and stands. Makes sense with the... Crow gestures to his eyes, but Eris doesn't seem to react. He coughs awkwardly. Ikora mentioned you. Being on Europa and Mars, I think. The Hive move against Earth. Something approaches, and I am deciphering its course. Though regarding Savathun's plots and the whims of queens, I imagine our motivations are not dissimilar. Crow sighs. Well, I'm done being strung along by people with plans. The powerful have plans for us all. It's better to see them laid out before you, Eris offers. Crow glares at his ghost. Sounds like someone's been sharing again. I knew you, and I know of you. Eris grips the scales of his sleeve and pulls him uncomfortably close. Your memories will be lessons in time, when you've burned out your vengeance and self-pity. Trust. Thank you to anyone who has listened to this all the way to the end. Consider giving this video a like and the channel a subscribe if you want to hear more Destiny content like this. In any case, shoutouts as always to the Destiny community resources Ishtar Collective, Destinypedia, Destiny Lore Vault, the Destiny Lore Subreddit, and Destiny Music Archive for their work that allows fan projects like this to exist, and, as always, to all the writers, artists, designers and developers who have ever had a hand in creating Destiny.